Hey everyone, and welcome to the weekly roundup for Eve Echoes for the week ending the 15th of October 2023. In these videos we just quickly go through the week's news and round it off with the developer Q&A for Eve Echoes. So let's get into it, shall we? First and foremost, the Plex situation on the market isn't as bad as it used to be. And when I say it isn't as bad, I mean there's actually Plex on the market. It is just a lot more expensive than it used to be. It is currently trending at around 6.33 million ISK per Plex. So it's going to get that a little bit more difficult to Plex up your accounts. But it is there on the market once again. That is a good thing, I guess. Anyway, let's move along. So we have some new news on the Eve Echoes website with regards to a new roadmap going forwards. So this roadmap talks about the upcoming 3 months leading us into December. I guess this is the equivalent of the old Trello that we used to have as a roadmap. This is a bit more professional, as it were. So the first part of the roadmap is the new drone land coming, the Kalevala Expanse. I've no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm going to go with Kalevala until somebody says otherwise. So this one's an interesting one. In the upcoming update, we plan to open the second region, the Kalevala Expanse of the new drone lands, which has different environments and gameplay compared to the Cobalt Edge. Here, let the Concord reveal in advance that the Needlejack, a tentative name, will be a very important item and will design the overall gameplay of the new region around the Needlejack. For example, by using the Needlejack to enter different areas within the Kalevala Expanse, the maximum tonnage of enemy ships in these areas varies. In addition to the Waste Seeker encampment, there are also more challenging battles. Defeating these enemies allows pilots to obtain corresponding rewards based upon their difficulty level. Pilots need to customize their combat style using different ships and leave the star system using the Needlejack after obtaining loot. Currently, the design and production progress of the Kalevala Expanse is nearing completion, and it is expected to be gradually revealed to everyone between October and November this year. So for anybody who's played EVE Online, this sounds suspiciously similar to, what are they called over in EVE Online? Abyssals. What those are is you use an item to enter a otherwise unreachable. Wow, I'm struggling with words right here. So you use an item to get into an otherwise unreachable area of space within the game. That area of space will be capped with regards to what size ship you can go in with. And yeah, it sounds an awful lot like Abyssals, but with Eve Echoes' own twist on it. It'll be interesting to see how they pull this one off, especially if it means that you can go in with different ship size restrictions. That would encourage people to fly ships other than battleships. It'd be nice to see, especially if it's a PvE themed scenario. But let's move on to the next part of the update, and that is the balance adjustment. The most recent balance adjustment we had was more what's the word that I'm looking for? It was referenced more as a buff update as opposed to a balance update, because nothing went down, everything just went up instead. But let's read through what they've got to say here. The saying goes, if you want to do a good job, you must first sharpen your tools. While launching new content, it is also important to always pay attention to the balance between different content. Therefore, a new quarterly balance adjustment will be launched in the upcoming version. In this balance adjustment, the Concord continues to optimize and adjust various gameplay and content in the game based on the issues raised by the pilots and the existing gaming experience. It will introduce more unique modules, rigs, and special units to enrich gameplay strategies and provide a better gaming experience for everyone. That's the key point to take home here. This balance adjustment won't just be tweaking the numbers, it'll be introducing new modules, rigs, and other special units. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And of course, leave a comment in the comment section below if you've got anything on your wish list that you'd like to see introduced as a module or rig. So last up we have the Interstellar Bazaar, which it's kind of to be expected around this time of year, only they're talking more about nanocores in this one and experimenting with more possible ideas for the dynamic nanocore. I'm not entirely sure what they mean by the dynamic nanocore, but at the very least it means that there's a new nanocore on its way alongside the Interstellar Bazaar. I'm not going to read through all of this because, as you've already seen, I can get a bit tongue twisted and we don't need to read through all of this verbatim. So we'll move on to a little bit of community news, but this is something that's good for those of us that live in the EU and don't typically tend to be awake for this. The Echoes of New Eden podcast, which is hosted primarily by Rambo and Taylor Rick, is usually hosted, say, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning for those of us in the EU. This time around, it's at 1900 UTC. So, for example, those of you in Britain, such as myself, it's going to be 8 o'clock in the evening. So if you actually want to take part and listen to this podcast live stream actually live for a change and not when you're walking to work in the morning, yeah, feel free to come and attend. I for sure will be tuning in for this one. Now, next up, this isn't necessarily specific to our game, it is actually news that's coming from the Chinese server. And considering that the Chinese server gets things a little bit ahead of us, it is worth mentioning what's going on here. So there seems to be a big new controversial update across in the Chinese server at the moment, which has been referred to as a way of turning Eve Echoes into something a bit more akin to Infinite Lagrange. It's not had particularly good feedback on the Chinese server, so if the negative feedback over on their side continues to occur, and we have to bear in mind that the Chinese server is the one that gets listened to here, if they continue to provide negative feedback about this, I don't think we'll have to worry about it coming across to us. But yeah, not only has it been referenced to Infinite Lagrange and bringing across its own game mechanics into Eve Echoes, but as you can see up on screen right now, the UI is, well, it's not Eve Echoes anymore, is it? The text at the bottom right does, when you put it into Google Translate back into Eve Endless Galaxy or Emberless Galaxy, which is the translation for Eve Echoes across in China. So we know this is definitely from Eve Echoes over there and not another game. It is just bizarre, this user interface. I'm not entirely sure what they're going for here, but I get this feeling that this screen that we're seeing right now, you won't be able to see it in their game in regular gameplay. I have this feeling that you're only going to be able to see it within the event itself, because there is of course references to an event page on their website. I'll be leaving a link to this website in the video description if you want to take a look for it yourself and have a look at some of the negative comments that the Chinese folks have been leaving about this update. I don't think we have to worry about this coming across to us. So let's round this off now with the developer Q&A, shall we? So let's zoom in so I can actually read this and try not to get tongue twisted again. I've only done that twice I think so far, so it would be good if I can finish this video without 3 tongue twisters. Nearly did it to myself there then. So, question number 1 from Jamie Tizot at NetEase. So, question number 1. With so many events that rewards various nanocores, it is very possible for new and or old players alike to miss an opportunity to obtain limited time nanocores. Would it be possible to give an option for a miss nanocore once per year, like the Omega Duobundo gift packs resetting yearly, such as any non-capital nanocore, any industrial nanocore, and any capital nanocore that were available in the past? The answer is we bring back popular cores through Neon Jungle and other events. The info is posted in patch notes in-game and in Discord channels. In the meantime, we'll take your advice into consideration for future updates. Thank you very much. Yeah, the unfortunate situation with these premium nanocores, as we might as well call them, is the more NetEase makes them available in the store, the less they can capitalise on this psychology factor called fear of missing out, otherwise referred to as FOMO. If they make these things time limited, people are more likely to purchase them because of the FOMO factor. It's just a thing. I don't see NetEase opening up a store with these available all year round, every single one, so we don't miss out on them, even though it would be nice to see. But hey ho, how can we argue a business? So question number 2. Hello, now that the corpo is developing, that there is more and more capital. Anomalies are disappearing fast and there are few large ones. Could you consider creating a Citadel module that would allow large anomalies to be generated alone in a system? Thank you. Just on a side note, before I read out the answer for this one, it would be nice if the developers got a native English speaker just to proofread some of these questions ahead of time, just so that they don't hurt our brains just trying to wow, okay, just so it doesn't hurt our brains just trying to understand this. But anyway, the answer is, in some cases the decrease in anomaly quantity is due to the system mechanics caused by an excessive number of local pilots. Players could try to explore other systems rather than swamping one system. Yeah, this is one thing that my own corporation can suffer from occasionally whenever I go to one of the more populated systems that it owns. Anomalies, you can go into the system and there's like 2 anomalies left out of 18, because all it takes is 2 capital pilots. That's all it takes to just grind the system down to nothing. And of course corporations have more than 2 players, and even if you don't have capital pilots out actively ratting, if you've got 5 or 6 people in battleships, that can still do it. So spreading out is probably key, and we need to do it more, to be honest. We need to spread out more, because it's been noted by many people that you can fly straight through nullsec and not encounter anyone until you get to the hotspots where everybody's all grouped up. But let's go into the third question. Let's not ramble too far. So question number 3. One of the most important things in terms of content for this game is fleet battles. The addition of the fleet report was a brilliant feature, as being able to see the fleet's kills and losses is how we determine if we came out ISK positive or not. Currently, you need to count up manually, which is fine, but just a small quality of life change would be if you could just show the total ISK lost somewhere on the page when you toggle between kills and losses. Thank you. Yeah, there's no reason not to implement this. It's a shame that this isn't a suggestion as opposed to a question, but hey ho. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Currently, we will prioritise optimising the fleet battle experience, so the suggested feature probably wouldn't be added to the game anytime soon, but we hear you and we will keep it in mind for future optimisation. It would be nice to see. There's, apart from development time, there's no reason not to add this to the development schedule. So let's move on to question number 4. Would it be possible to significantly increase the range of station offensive modules? The new skills are nice, though the problem with stations was never DPS. It is practicality. When a station is being targeted, it is usually from 300 or more kilometers away. The only adequate response is equal range. After all, a station is larger than all but supercabs and is a completely stationary structure. So there is no physical limitations on weapons capability. A reduction in DPS and then it carries on, it appears to have been cut off. But I see where this guy's coming from. If you're the owner of a capsuleer outpost that's ever come under attack, you'll notice something really annoying. So a single stealth bomber could come in at 80 kilometers. You know, it's got say 80 kilometer range, for example, and it can pummel your outpost. It is currently sat outside of range to be affected by the stasis web of fire that's built into the outpost, or the warp disruptor, so you can't pin it down. The energy neutralizer barely does anything because it's outside of the optimal range, and by the time the missiles actually get to the stealth bomber, it's already warped to another location, relocked and started firing again. And as this guy stated, if people show up in capital ships or striker battleships, they can sit literally outside of the weapons range of the Capsuleer outpost. And yes, it is worth mentioning that these things are not meant to be solely defended by the outpost guns itself. You're meant to bring in your own allies to fight in their own ships alongside the Capsuleer outpost. But even if you're the defender and you've got friends out on grid actively defending you, you are still better off getting out of the outpost into a ship and defending from that ship. Because whilst the outpost is got much more effective HP, it can't do anything. Its weapons are out of range, it takes forever to lock, its E-War is even shorter range than its weapons. As it stands at the moment, there is... The only reason to put weapons on a Capsuleer outpost is to scare off just random people who don't really know how to cheese the system and avoid its weapons. That's all it's there for, just scaring off the inexperienced. Let's have a look at the answer anyway. Currently, after acquiring the skills, the attack range is sufficient for most situations, so we probably wouldn't make any immediate plans to increase the range. However, we'll definitely keep an eye on related feedback and make the necessary changes. What I'd like to see is a nano core, because this would do two things. You could have a nano core, just give us a green or blue one. Doesn't have to be something that we can update and train up and so on, because I don't think anybody would for a structure, to be honest. But give us a nano core that allows us to change the colour palette of the outpost a little bit, because we all like to play around with colouring things in this game. And for its 3 attributes that we get to choose from, allow us to choose from, say, extended weapons range or extended electronic warfare range or more weapons damage, something like that. Just allow us to choose which part of the outpost we want to improve upon. Anyway, let's move on to the 5th and final question. So, question: for inventory to personal assets, could you consider adding a fast display choice to the list, which would not ever refresh the display during autopiloting? Before the sortation list, names, quantity, distance was added to the game, I was able to do all of my housekeeping, Jita sales and contracts while autopiloting, but now that the inventory display refreshes upon a gate jump, everything takes that much longer, and more complicated tasks simply can't be done anymore, like a contract for numerous items, because the refresh deselects everything and scrolls me back up to the top of the items. Yeah, a great many of us have experienced this problem, and yeah, it would be nice to get that quality of life improvement back. So let's look at the answer. Hi there, we understand your concern, but making changes to our complex asset system requires careful deliberation. Currently, we believe it's necessary to refresh the data after the gate jumps. We appreciate your feedback and we'll see if there's any other solutions for this. So yeah, we're not going to get that. We're not going to get it back the way that it used to be, which is kind of a shame, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't impact core gameplay. It's just a quality of life improvement that we lost. But anyway, that about rounds off the weekly roundup for this week, as I have no more bits for the news. So if you haven't already, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to tune in to the Echoes of New Eden podcast if you get the chance. And until then, see you guys in the next video.